Week to Washington and Washington State are going to continue to play that game for the near future. Line drive kick out of the end zone. And we, again, we're getting into our indulgence moment here. We have a crew of people that are just exceptional, extraordinary. A lot have been OGs, have spent 12 years together with us that we want to thank during this fourth quarter tonight. Andrew Toski and John Martinez, our truck engineers. Jacob Violante is clock and score operator. Our camera operators, Jason Codler. Way to go, Jason. I can see him down the end zone. Garrett Mann. Come on. There you go. Card Bomb. Yep, that's him. And the man now has his own surgery named after him, Joe Sonnenberg. That's it, Joe.
The best.
Joe, by the way, I'm trying. I have 12 minutes left, okay? Here you go, Joe. And this is Ari Patu in the game for Stanford, their third quarterback. Young man that came in a couple of years ago with a lot of promise out of Fresno, was one of the very first early enrollees allowed here at Stanford. And I said Fresno, on my pardon, Folsom, outside of Sacramento. But it was kind of just 3 years ago, it was a little bit of a groundbreaking moment here when Stanford finally agreed to allow potential football players to come in early, as everyone else is doing. Well underthrown there. Just to really quickly finish, not quickly because it shouldn't be quick, but we'll watch Ari here. We still have 12 minutes to go, but our replay crew, Howard Ruby, swimming god, Nate Barak, Mike Scoville. I don't know why Raytheon lets us borrow him, but we're so grateful they do. Our technical director, Papa Scott Palo, proud first-time grandpa. Our lead audio, Garrett Knapp, makes this actually has to suffer listening to me for all these games. Our field audio and double duty because he's also our crew master of ceremonies, Dave Walcott. Ooh, that ball pops and Notre Dame on it. Big time hit by Jalen Sneed to jar that ball out, and it winds up in the hands of Ramon Henderson. Stadium, where Notre Dame is in command. They're going to give a little run here to Steve Angeli. Back up, second quarterback. Got in a little bit last week for them in their home finale. Interesting challenge right now in this world. That do you sit and develop behind her? Notre Dame, as we said, 2 of the last 3 years, Notre Dame has brought in a 1-year transfer portal quarterback to play. Angeli throws a pick right there. And that is Spencer Jorgensen, whom we can accurately say is playing his final game. The one and only Stanford player, Spencer Jorgensen, with the interception.
Well, he probably thinks they're playing a little bit of man at zone all day long, and he throws it to the wrong man. That is not the right read. I think he's anticipating his tight end to continue running, but Ted, against zone, as a tight end on crossing routes, you're taught to sit it down. That's exactly what his receiver does. He throws it as though he's continuing to run, and the senior on senior day, Spencer Jorgensen, congrats, man. What a play. It'll be a great memory for him.
So Notre Dame, this turnover shouldn't hurt them. The first 3 should have, and didn't hurt them as much as they could. Ari Patu going to get out, going to run it, and going to take a, well, not a direct hit, thankfully. Dragged down as he got out in the scramble. That's Jason Anye on the play for Notre Dame.
Ted, I'll be curious to see what Stanford does in the spring as well. They've recruited well this year. You referenced their class. They've got one of the best high school quarterbacks in the country who's committed. Anticipate him coming here. So whose job is it? Where does this offense go for Troy Taylor? Whoa,
E.J. Smith won't get there, and we got a flag thrown in. That'll give me a minute here to make sure we finish acknowledging the rest of our brilliant crew. Art Ferraro has been magnificent with us on video. Russ Lipkin on graphics.
Offense number 57. 10-yard penalty, second down.
Our associate director, Jason Arminio, who's been waiting all year for us to get the big game, and we got it tonight, Jason, just for you. Our tech manager, our director of production operations, and another irreplaceable star, Brent Brown. And eventually there's a moment in life, and the great international football stars reach that point when you're just known by one name. Sam. Just one name.
That's
it. That's all you have to say is Sam.
There he is.
Doesn't need a last name. Doesn't need a title. He's just Sam. Messi, Ronaldo, Sam.
He makes everything around him better. Thankfully, we're around him every weekend.
And I will say I'm very thrilled. I walk away from this football season that in our weekly travels, we went to 10 of the 12 schools this year in person. The football staffs appreciate and understand what this crew has delivered. And I think they'll miss this crew. Many of them will miss this crew. But that's a testament to the absolute excellence. And obviously we have men and women that join us in various locales around our conference on individual game bases, and I can't name them all clearly, but as Lamson carries here for Stanford. But I know I feel proud of that. This network, that the people, the coaches in this conference, and the staffs and the schools understand what these people that some of whom we just named have delivered.
Yeah, and what's fun is when we walk into these facilities, guys like Troy Taylor or different coaches around this league, they know a lot of those people's names that you just referenced. They don't just know the people talking on television.
Ooh, right in and out of Isle Manor's hands. And the other part, since we're looking at Eric Isle Manor, we had a chance to visit with him yesterday from Medicine Hat, Alberta. Tristan Sinclair, the other player that we had a chance. And it happens every time you come to Stanford or to Cal, where we had a chance to get to know Fernando Mendoza, the remarkable first-year quarterback story there, or going to USC practice and meeting Mason Cobb and learning a little bit about his story, or Bo Nix, of course, at Oregon, or Michael Penix, or Cam Rising on the field last week supporting his team in Tucson. This is the kind of game, and meeting those two young men we met yesterday reinforced to me what keeps you going about this, that amidst everything that's going on, we all know, there's still examples of college in the football and everything that's right. And there's Tristan Sinclair, who wouldn't let me know if he was coming back next year, but I heard, because I told him, Tristan, I listen for a living. He said something yesterday that just caused me to wonder, and it would be, of course, a great benefit. He's already has his undergrad degree. Nice spin-away move there. It's Mudayo Rubin on the catch for Stanford. And a first down for the Cardinal.
I think when there's coaching changes and upheaval in a sport, players like Tristan Sinclair have an opportunity to leave a legitimate legacy at their respective school. This was a guy that could have hopped into the transfer portal, was trying to figure out his future. Stanford still hadn't hired a defensive staff. He called Troy Taylor, the head coach's.
The play action. Medea Rubin got 16 yards on his catch. Isle Manor comes back down and takes it near the 10.
Just to finish up on that, Troy Taylor saying, uh-oh, another call, another transfer. And Tristan Sinclair says, Coach, I want to let you know that I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be a foundational piece to get this thing right. And the pride that he has, of course, came from many areas, but one being his father, a former player here. Ted, I know you know him well. And I just love that story for him. And you could feel.
Yeah. There's his dad, who was a three-time All-Pac-10 center. Doesn't that picture look old? I was the announcer. You wonder why. These kids look at me like I'm a fossil. Ryan Butler in the game here on 1st and goal. But it was big. We have a delay here. Stanford doesn't get the playoff in time.
Delay of game.
So
offense, 5-yard penalty, first down.
I can't help because it was an overwhelming thought leaving yesterday after talking to these guys. I mean, Troy Taylor as well, and at Stanford. But that's despite all things going on, that's what's still good about this sport. Are people like that represent the best of college football and are the ones that have to carry this forward. Yogi, and it's been my honor to be with you for these last 7 because you're the same way. You represent everything that's right about this. And that's going to be a tack on, a little late hit there on pot 2 out of bounds. That's Christian Gray of Notre Dame, got a little over exuberant.
Well, neither one of these teams are lying down, I'll tell you that.
That's right. I spent a fair bit of time today talking with a lot of the Notre Dame people because we don't see them very often, clearly. And everybody.
After the play, personal foul, unnecessary roughness, defense, number 29. Penalty enforced after distance to the goal, automatic first down.
Yep.
There's one hit, and it's just a drive to the ground.
Yep. Easy call. So first and goal at the 4 here. Lamson back in for Stanford. And Lamson to the goal line, and he is in for a Stanford touchdown. So a nice highlight for Stanford's leading rusher, the quarterback, Justin Lamson.
Patience, finds the hole, presses the hole, gets north and south.
It's such a retro thing. Justin Lamson has run for 5 touchdowns this year. He does not have a touchdown pass. But it's been an effective use of Lamson and his skill set for Stanford. So Joshua Carty got hurt. He did not kick that extra point.
Well, Justin Lamson just continues on the path he's been all year on the ground, finds his way to the goal lines. You're going to be, but Scott Barnes, the athletic director, that athletic department, is not going to stop pouring into football. And I think in the world of the expanded playoff, whoever becomes the next head coach at Oregon State, to me, can kind of be like the Boise State of Chris Peterson. Like, you're going to have a chance, I think, you can continue to fund that program. And I've heard from so many coaches today already, Ted, that want that job, whether it's within the walls, outside the walls. You're right. It was
the Oregon State job.
The Oregon State job.
That's great. That's great to hear.
Yeah.
Because it's a fabulous program with a great fan base. And that's why it is, like I said, it's funny, I talked about it tonight with a wonderful man who's here, who's actually connected to this game in a lot of ways. Jadarian Price carrying. Ty Willingham is here tonight. Of course, coached a conference championship football team when he was here at Stanford. 1999 Pac-10 champions, went to the Rose Bowl, of course, later coached at Notre Dame. Tyrone Willingham is a Michigan State graduate, one of the first black quarterbacks to play in the Big Ten. This is unfortunate now for Jorgensen in his final game, having had an interception, but now not able to get up. And I was talking with Ty about that before the game, and he said, Michigan State has just been plagued by poor management, poor administration for a long time. And it's an interesting, and they may get that right, hopefully, because it's a great school. I have family connections to Michigan State, but it hasn't been run very well, and they've had a lot of well-documented problems, and that's what makes the choice even more interesting.
Yeah, it's just interesting because Jonathan Smith was one of those guys that probably would have been able to, at some point, if he wanted to leave Oregon State, to get whatever job he wanted. He was having that type of success. Clearly, he felt it was time to make a jump.
And that's piled up. That's Jabron Payne that didn't get there on the 3rd down carry, and so Notre Dame will actually punt the ball here. Now Marcus Freeman is going to do something that was last done by Charlie Weiss. Interesting, was not done by Brian Kelly. at Notre Dame. He's going to get 9 wins in his first 2 seasons as head coach.
Yeah, you're right. He's been so impressive. We had a chance to talk to Larry Fitzgerald in the first half. He spent some time around Coach Freeman. Anybody who meets him raves.
First punt tonight for Notre Dame. That gets us now down just over 5 minutes. Conference, an esteemed panel. John Elway was voted #1. Nice throw there. As Stanford has brought in another new quarterback, Bo Nelson, who was one of the many that walked today before the game in their senior day.
How about E.J. Smith? He's the first. There's Mr. Nelson. But E.J. Smith is the first Stanford running back with 100+ receiving yards in a game since CMAC. Christian McCaffrey in the Rose Bowl against Iowa.
That's a throw out of bounds by Nelson. Nelson from Boise, Idaho, senior. But that point about Stanford, and right now both soccer programs here are involved in the national championship playoffs. Women's volleyball just won its 21st Pac-12 championship. And it's why this matchup tonight has even a deeper meaning going forward for Troy Taylor, as Stanford will be next year in the ACC, which itself is a superb conference in many of the Olympic sports. And there are a couple people here tonight that were extremely instrumental, that really did the work to make sure that Stanford and Cal would have a place to play at the best possible level of sport next year. As Nelson launches one that'll be too far and incomplete. And that's Father John Jenkins, who's here tonight, the president of Notre Dame. He'll be retiring at the end of this coming school year after 18 years. Jack Swarbrick also going to retire as athletic director, and Condoleezza Rice. Dr. Condoleezza Rice, so affiliated with Stanford, who also does have a degree from Notre Dame, but it was really the combination of Father Jenkins and the Notre Dame influence and Condi Rice's relentless advocacy for Stanford and Cal that saved the day for 2 schools that, by the way, produce a lot of Olympic athletes for the United States. Nelson gets outside and is tripped up to fall out of bounds. Jason Onye on the play there for Notre Dame. See the young man signaling plays there, rubbing his tummy behind is another interesting name. That is Charlie Meyer, sophomore quarterback here, whose dad played for Notre Dame. It was not bad, like quarterback to #1 team at Notre Dame. And then had a long NFL career, Rick Meyer, before he got involved in the wine business. There's Charlie, who's a sophomore at Stanford.
Every time we come up to this place, this school, sit in on meetings, watch practice, I think we both walk away. It's like, God, we're so impressed. I mean, it's just like the lens in which these student athletes view life in is different than anywhere else I've ever been.
And Nelson launches another one down the field. That'll be incomplete. Ismail Cisse, the intended receiver, and that will give the ball to Notre Dame and a chance to run things out. So this has been pretty much a permanent fixture at Stanford, called the Director's Cup.
Yeah, I mean, every which way they have won it. It's just the definition of excellence when it comes to collegiate athletics. And there's just a great pride here in athletics. And I just am often reminded of the TED Talk that David Shaw gave, where he talked again about Stanford, and specifically when you're talking about football, we go find 25 elite football players who also excel in the classroom who want to go to Stanford. Yes, let's go do that. And that's going to be exactly where Troy Taylor picks up from with this year's recruiting class. And I'll be curious in 2 years where the Stanford football team lands.
Bouncing it outside is Love, and Jeremiah Love takes it down to the 25-yard line of Stanford. On to Also, we've worked with so many great people. We just mentioned our crews through the years, and we've also had a lot of wonderful partner announcers and sideline reporters, and it'd be incredibly wrong to start naming many because I'll forget. But one person I want to just remember is my first partner when we started this network, Glenn Parker, who was a magnificent, proud Arizona Wildcat. You got to be very proud after their 9-3 season. And Glenn, I think it was 5 years we were together to start this thing, and Glenn was wonderful. And I just know that I would sit outside the vines with Glenn anytime. I hope this series continues. That's another question. I've been trying to get an answer from everybody here tonight, and I can't get a clear one. They are going to play next year at Notre Dame, and then I think because of the new world and scheduling, et cetera, not sure what's going to happen with this down the road. And of course, one thing that Stanford, the Stanford and Cal are both going to encounter with their new world is it's a lot for football. It's going to be an increase in travel. But both schools are going to play SMU every year, by the way. Stanford and Cal will play each other every year, and then they will play SMU every year. So one of them is going to go to Dallas each year.
Well, yeah, it's going to be a dramatic adjustment for the two programs in Northern California, the rest of the Pac-12. And I would just say to all the power brokers, this is my soapbox moment here for a second.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm sitting down.
Yeah. Well, let's just compete to try to keep some of the magic and the pageantry alive. Like these two helmets lined up across one another. It's been great. It's expected and anticipated. Middle of the season in South Bend, end of the year out here. I mean, I always believe this, that college football is about two things. It's about the fans.
False start on the offense. Not having plays set. It's a 5-yard penalty. First down.
It's about the fans and the players. And I'm worried about, as this world continues to evolve, that those two things fall lower and lower on the pecking order. And that's what college football is. Look at these fans that are here. They showed up to cheer on their team. 3 wins, 8 wins. They'd show up with 11 wins, 0 wins. And then the players who pour into it, because the numbers haven't changed. They're not all going to the NFL. They're not all going to play for the Paris Musketeers.
Wait a minute. Are you scouting?
A couple might, yeah.
But that's well said, too. And when we signed on week 0, and I made sure that point, this year is about the people who play, the things they do, the achievements they made, and that's what you feel good about tonight. Even in, Stanford wasn't expected to have a great season, wins and losses, and that's pretty much the way it's played out. But you know what every Stanford person will tell you? Great group of kids, great group of young men. And Troy Taylor hopes that he can add to it. Puts the full expectation. Notre Dame feels the same way about Marcus Freeman. From within, they were able to promote somebody. And yeah, 9 wins in each of the first 2 years. They'll have a good bowl game against, to be determined. A lot of Notre Dame people would like to make Notre Dame against LSU. I've heard that a few times.
It'd be fun, and I hope that young man plays in a bowl game just so the country can see him again. Audric Estime, what a gifted running back. And what a fun game to be a part of, a rivalry to finish the season. Sam Hartman, congrats on just a storied career in college football. Everybody's around him. They also feel as though he makes them better. And just a guy that came into that program at Notre Dame and stepped right in and said, let me learn everybody, let me learn about everybody, and then I'll become the leader. And that's exactly what he's done.
238 rushing yards tonight for Audric Estime, 4th best game in the history of Notre Dame. 4 rush touchdowns, 381 rush yards.